Whatever got you in the notion of going out to the west, Dad? You just figured there weren't any work around Clay County and there's better work out there? Whatever got you interested in that?
Well, I've had a brother that lived out there. And one of his brother-in-laws come back to Kentucky on a visit and was telling what a good place it was. Well, I had made up my mind to leave Clay County anyway. And I had been planning to move to Hamilton. And after he explained what a good place it was to make a living out there, I took up the subject with him. What sense would just a man that's willing to work, have of making a start out there? Just to go out there with not very much capital at all. And he said, a man can get all the work that he wants out there. So he told me what they was paying for farm labor then. So I decided to go out to Hughes and try it out. Moved out there, and by the time I got out there, they'd had a disease that hit horses and killed an awful lot of horses through that part of the country. But no mules hadn't died from it. They called it spinal meningitis. But it's strange to me that the horses died from it, but no mules didn't. And that put a lot of them horse people to buy mules. They began to ship mules in there for the car loads. They'd gobble them up right just as soon as they unloaded. Well, I hooked up with a farmer that it wasn't long till he found out that I was pretty good with horses and mules.
We're sitting around Dad's trail here, Pearl and Sandy and Dad and I, and he's going to talk some about our ancestors as far back as he can remember and so forth. Now, Dad has told me that his grandpa, Gibson, was originally named Mackenzie. And our grandpa had a sister, and they were orphans. Their parents died while they were quite young, and people named Gibsons raised them. So I'm going to let Dad take it over from here then, and he can tell us what he can remember about our ancestors near as he can. We kind of bring it up to date. So, Dad, do you remember any? No, you never saw any of them. Yeah, you saw your Grandpa Gibson, didn't you?
Yes.
Have you talked with him very much in his lifetime? Did you get a chance to talk with him?
Yeah, I knew him real well.
Did he never tell you anything about where his people came from, what county or state or
Letcher County.
Letcher County?
Yeah.
Was that as far back as he could go?
After he married, he moved to Letcher County and lived there a while, then came back to Leslie. And at one time, he bought over 1,000 acres of land in the head of Bullskin Creek. That creek is 13 miles long.
Yeah.
From Oneida to the head of it.
Even in those days, that was considered quite a bit of land, wasn't it? 1,000 acres.
He swapped a horse for that land.
Oh.
He swapped a muzzle-loading rifle gun for the horse, then swapped the horse for the land.
Just think now, 1,000 acres of land with the virgin timber, big tall chestnuts, and all kind of stuff like that. Boy, that was really something, wasn't it, in those days?
Poplar logs that an ordinary cross-cut saw wouldn't race through.
Yeah.
And I helped log that timber off of that.
Well, and think a man could get that much land for a horse. Really, they didn't rate the land.
The name of that place is Size Rock now.
Is it?
There's a rock that rolled off of the mountain and lodged right in a little narrow bottom next to the creek. And I never heard of anybody knowing how deep in the ground that rock went. But the rock is standing on almost on its end. It did come off of that mountain. and lodged almost at the edge of the creek.
Well.
And the name of that place is Size Rock now.
Uh-huh.
And Size Rock School was the first one I ever went to.
Well.
And my grandpa then, he, after moving to Letcher County, he stayed there a while and came back to Leslie. And I don't know much about what happened until he enlisted in the Army. Now
That was in the Civil War?
In the Civil War.
Yeah.
He was a cavalryman.
Uh-huh.
And he has told me about wherever Doc would overtake them, that's where they'd have to stay that night.
Uh-huh.
He told me about cutting pine boughs and piling them down on the ground and spread a blanket over them boughs.
Uh-huh.
They used double blankets.
Yeah.
So he had one part of it under him and the other one over him. And maybe wake up the next morning, push the blanket back from over his head, snow rolled down his face.
Ooh, kind of rough back
Said he
there.
was laying there sweating, sweating between them two blankets with that snow on him.
But they probably made them real thick in those days, didn't they? The blankets, real good ones. And so.
They was warm blankets, and when that snow fell on him, his body heat just kept him warm.
Yeah. You know, I've read in Pioneers' days, though, that probably spruce pine boughs made a fairly good bed. They just sprang up and they would lay flat.
That's
and
what it was.
That was
Spruce pine boughs.
that was the standard way to make a bed when you was out that way.
The last time I was at the cemetery where he was buried, I looked at his grave marker, and it told what company he belonged to.
Yeah.
While he was in the Army.
Yeah.
Give his serial number, and the date of his birth, and the day of his death.
Well.
Did he? What company of the U.S. Cavalry that he belonged to?
Do you have any idea what part of the country he ranged in when he was in the arms? Did he ever tell you what state? Was he all stay here in Kentucky all the time?
I never did.
Never did know.
I don't remember if he may ever tell me that.
Where he went.
Now,
to
my grandpa Bolin was stationed. He was in the infantry, and he was stationed at Camp Nelson.
Yeah. That's up here at where they make whiskey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Camp, yeah. There was quite a bit of Army activity here. Burnsides and Camp Nelson and all those places here in Kentucky, wasn't it? And let's see, then we used to see a place back, when we go back this road, Jackson County Road. It's supposed to have been a big battle fought back there somewhere, wasn't it?
There was an army of soldiers that camped one night on a knob where Highway 421 goes out onto the main highway going into Richmond. It used to be 25.
Yeah.
Where before you get to it, there's a place out there they call Big Hill.
Yeah.
And this knob is inside of the place they call Big Hill. And it just looked like a flat, just a round knob with a flat top to it. But I've been told that there's about 15 acres of land on top of that knob. And there's only one way getting up there. And this army of soldiers was expecting to be attacked at any time. So they found a place to get up that cliff and get on top. And they camped there that night.
I've seen the place from the highway. It looked like it'd be a good place. You'd have good defense there. It'd be hard for...
It's covered with timber. The top of that, it looks like it's covered with timber.
Yeah.
But I've heard that there was about 15 acres land up there that's just perfectly level. And they made the camp on it up there. And now, my grandpa Bolin, while he's stationed at Camp Nelson, he told one story about one outpost that every sentry that was sent out there at night would go over the hill. He'd desert.
About February the 9th, 1969, we're sitting on Dad's trail here, Pearl and Sandy and me and Dad, just the four of us, and the TV, turn the TV down just a little bit, the sound. And then they were, and your grandpa, there were just two of those kids, weren't they, that were Mackenzies, you know what you've told us?
Yes.
The two
There's
of
a boy and a girl.
Do you know about how old they were when they were adopted?
No, I don't know.
Don't know, never did know. And whatever happened to the girl now?
She married a sexton in Lesser County.
Letcher?
Near Whitesburg.
Yeah.
And then they moved to Leslie County. And she died in Leslie County. I don't know whether he died in Leslie County or Letcher County.
Yeah.
But I never remember him. But I can remember her.
Yeah.
And back when I was young, I had a pretty good voice to sing. And she stayed at our house a while before she died. And she'd always want me after supper to sing to her before she went to bed.
Yeah. You learned the straight notes back in those days, didn't you?
I learned them later.
Oh, later, I see. I remember you said you taught some singing school, and I know you taught me to sing bass a long time ago.
That was, we used shape notes then.
Yeah. You know, in modern singing, very few people use shape notes anymore. They use the other kind, round notes, as we refer to them, or lines and spaces and so forth.
The music they learn now, it's more for instrumental music than for singing.
Yeah. You know, I'd love to get a hold of some of them old song books, so you can't find them anymore. Nobody's got them, but you can hear them. What was those that you and I learned out of now? There was one called Windows of Heaven that you had known as a young man and taught it had most beautiful songs. We did find one later, but there was another kind that was quite by the Vaughn Publishing Company that we had there that had a lot of the favorites at that time. You remember what the name of that songbook was?
Well, I was familiar with the Windows of Heaven number 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3 was combined.
Yeah.
They finally began to put out the 3 books together. And we used the number 7 books on. But I used the Vaughan Simplified Theory on how to write music. Use that in teaching. And you had to learn how to keep time and how to sing the lines and spaces. Even when you learned the shape notes, you knew the note, the name of that note when you seen it, but you didn't know the sound of it. But you had to use that musical scale to get the sound of it. I mean, get the pitch.
Yeah.
And in that simplified theory of how to write music, the question was asked, what is a sound? Anything you can hear is a sound.
Yeah.
And what is a tone? That's a sound that is pleasing to the ear.